Let's talk. All right. Good evening. Good evening. It is 6 p.m. on Thursday, March 16th, and I would like to call this information study session of the Board of Education to order. This is an information study session, but we do have quite a bit of business that we're going to take care of because we had to do things a little different this month. But there's only 4 people in the room, so I can't actually start the meeting. We don't have a quorum. So if you guys don't mind just sitting tight for just a minute. Yeah, I need a quorum at the horseshoe when we call roll. So we're going to wait just a moment. Sorry. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Willis, Mrs. Moore, Dr. Rodriguez, Mrs. Lilgy, Mr. Lopez,
Present.
Dr. Body, Dr. Kavanaugh, Mr. Richardson,
Present.
Miss Williams. Quorum is present.
Thank you. And I am aware that Dr. Kavanaugh, Dr. Body, and Ms. Moore were going to be absent this evening, certainly for good reason. So I don't have any concern with their absences today. So next up on our agenda is public comment, for which we have none. But although we don't have public comment, we do have a special treat for you. So I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. I'm looking forward to all of the presentations, but we actually have a special presentation that's not on the docket that I get to announce or start. But really, I'm just going to turn it over to John McGraw because he's the magic behind all of this. So, John, take it away.
Testing. There we go. Good evening. I'm going to play the video for the little surprise, and then I'll say a few things after that. So go ahead, Kathy and Ron, if you'd play the video, please.
This is so awesome.
And for another little surprise, not only do we have the video, but we have a live stream with our students that are currently in Japan with a couple of our staff members.
Can they hear us?
Good morning from Japan, everyone. As
Ohio
you know, I am
gozaimasu.
their
If you
marketing
turn on your mic.
and recruitment specialist and also a media producer. And I'm going to hand it off to this wonderful bunch of graduates and students, including our great leader who has helped us coordinate this whole trip.
Ohio gozaimasu. What do we say?
Yeah.
Where should we begin? What are we on, day 3?
We're on day 3.
Wow. It's a whirlwind adventure. We're just jumping on trains. Yesterday jumped on trains, we're jumping on buses. We are with another group. They have approximately 27 kids. We're all staying together and jumping on things together. And yesterday, I think was my favorite. I don't know if you guys want to share. We had okonomiyaki, where you make like a Japanese savory pancake in, like, how do you say that? On the teflon, the thing that you cook in front of you. We cooked the noodles, we cooked the okonomiyaki, oh my gosh, it was so good. And then the staff gave us pudding in this little container and let us keep it. But the staff was really nice and accommodating. I don't know, that was my favorite so far. What about you guys? Excuse my morning voice.
I liked going to Harajuku. Harajuku was my favorite part. I really like Japanese fashion, and it was really great to go to all the shops. There was a rotating sushi bar, and I bought some cool little art books, and it was just really great. A little tiring, but it's worth it.
Open it for questions.
Would you guys like to ask us any questions? And by the way, we're in the cafeteria if you hear the noise in the background. The other groups are getting their food. You guys have any questions? You can do them.
Ms. Lilji?
I'm actually going to try to ask a question that one of our, well, I won't name him, but we were talking to a student earlier tonight who was curious about the food you guys might be eating in Japan, or the food people eat in Japan. And we were saying, hey, we just happen to know some people who are in Japan right now. We could ask them a little more about the food. So you mentioned a rotating sushi bar. What else are you eating? And what is the sushi like?
Did you guys have sushi yet? Did anybody? None of us had sushi yet. Can you believe it? Isn't that crazy? Because you think of Japanese food as sushi, but we have so much more going on over here. Like, we got noodles. We have meat on top of like rice. What else did we think?
I went to a pancake bar.
You went to a pancake bar, vegan. And tell us about that, because that wasn't there.
It was a lot of different options. Obviously, I couldn't communicate 100% with the servers, but with a little bit of help from my phone and the instructions they gave, I was able to order what I wanted and pay for it. It was an experience being able to sit in a shop in a place where you've never been and still enjoy it without really being able to fully talk to the people you're around. I know the food, it was very good. They made it very good with a bunch of designs on top, a little like cat cookie on it. But it was very fluffy. I know a lot of the times they either tend to go with very savory food and very sweet foods, and it was definitely more on the sweet side.
Yeah, definitely good sweet treats. And you got donuts too. A lot of our kids are like crazy about Starbucks here, because they can get the cherry blossom coffee beans, and they're eating all these, and they're just having these amazing donut treats. What did they have? Matcha and shake.
Cherry blossom.
Yeah, just amazing. I don't know if you heard it before.
We saw some of the cherry blossoms are in bloom.
Oh yeah, we saw that too. So the coffee at Starbucks goes with the seasons, and so we're all searching for cherry blossoms because we're a little bit early. So the famous cherry blossoms haven't bloomed, but all these beautiful variations have bloomed all over the place. It's gorgeous. Since we left in a snowstorm, it's like shocking. You see actual flowers. Do you want to add anything? Food or anything?
I mean, the Moss burgers were nice.
Oh gosh, I forgot about Mossburger. You guys, there's a place called Mossburger, MOS, not MOSS. And it's like gourmet fast food. We had teriyaki burgers. There's a special seasonal chicken thing, and they have a bun made out of rice. Try to imagine the rice is circular, like a little circle, and then the meat is in between the two rice buns. I can't explain it, but it's amazing. So we should probably get off food, but we like that the best. Can you tell?
Yeah. Miss Stark, can you tell us, so 20 years ago when I went on this trip to
I'm
Japan.
Kelly Sensei.
Yeah. Sensei.
That's Stark Sensei.
Stark Sensei, sorry.
No, I'm Kelly Sensei.
Oh, Kelly Sensei, sorry. The other one, yeah.
Yeah, Stark Sensei. Yeah, she's the other Japanese teacher, but now she's coaching.
Yeah, oh, gotcha. 20 years ago when I went to Japan, we stayed in exchange homes. Can you talk to us about the accommodations for the students on this trip?
Well, this is so different. You know, I'm in kind of like a shock because remember we used to drop the kids off with their little host family and then visit them from time to time, and they went to school. This is different. We're all together on the buses, the trains, in the same hotels. Little, what would you say, a boutique hotel? Very small. Things are quite small. The rooms are, but it's really nice. We just got used to this one. Now we have to leave, but the breakfast is amazing. We have to send some pictures. Oh, I'm back on food again. Sorry. So it is very different because we're all together. We're trying to meet up and talk to them about the schedule and getting people out. You know, they're tired when they first get here. So we're like, hey, we're going to do this today. So get ready. Right now, tonight, we're in the Shinkansen, the bullet train. So you have to send ahead all of our stuff to Kyoto. Just keep a little carry-on bag with a change of clothes. So that's going to be different. We never went on the bullet train. Did we go on the bullet train with you guys?
Oh, no.
And the
Our
other trips, I don't think we
our
did.
most exciting thing was the Lansing boat.
Oh yeah, we always have to go to the Michigan boat,
Michigan
right?
boat,
Because
yeah.
it's like the Michigan Princess,
Yep.
which is a nice boat, right?
It is, but it's not a bullet
For
train.
some reason, yeah, it's not a bullet train. But yeah, so it's very different because we're all together like camping in a little hotel. And it's nice. I mean, the kids can figure out the lay of the land. They do get free time. That's the part that scares me. But we get free time. They all match up. They're good. We don't lose anybody. That's the scary part. Okay, I'll cut it.
Well, it's not remiss on me that we have you guys at 7 a.m., 7:12 in the morning, meeting with us. And so we sincerely appreciate it. And this is meta. Is that what the kids say that? This is meta that we're talking to kids halfway around the world. Are there any other comments from board members?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Sensei Kelly, so the language barrier being one thing, how are you all adapting? Are you being techies and using the different apps to conversate with people, or how are you doing that?
Well, I think they've been pretty good. These kids all learn Japanese, even if it was 2 years ago or a year and a half. I think you're not using many apps, are you? They're using their brains. They got in their head. It's wonderful. I said, you guys, the minute you get there and hear all this Japanese nonstop, it's going to pop up your mouth's a little easier, you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm really proud of them. Like Sarah yesterday, she's not here right now, but she wanted to order McDonald's, but she got scared and ran away. All she had to do was point and say like L size or M size or S size, like small size. Then she went to Starbucks and ordered and used all the things she learned because we were just doing restaurant stuff in class with her class. So she learned how to order everything that she wanted. Once she got over her shyness, she just went in and ordered. So these kids are really on their own using their Japanese. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, I hope you're proud of them.
Oh, immensely. Thank you.
So today, that's tomorrow, right?
It's Friday,
We're
correct?
talking to them
Happy St. Patrick's
tomorrow.
Day. Yeah.
I told you it was meta. I told you it's in the future and across the world.
I don't understand meta. You must understand that not all of us know meta stuff.
Mr. Superintendent, anything else that you wanted to share or express at this time?
I just want to say I'm so thrilled that this actually came to fruition. I think we all know that there was a long trials and tribulations to get this trip off the ground. I think we were supposed to originally start it before I was even hired. So I just think that this is wonderful. And I just hope that this is the beginning of more trips like this. the experience of being in other places, surrounded by others, is really a wonderful thing, because it allows you to understand the humanity that is this world. So have a great time, enjoy, I guess, eat all the donuts you want, and we can't wait to hear more about this trip. So thank you so much for everything, and of course, thank you to TC and John for being able to patch us through to the future, as you are in Friday. So
The future.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your trip. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Only requirement for the next trip is that a board member must be one of the chaperones. So, it's one less than a quorum, but it's fine. Or we could meet in the future over there. We'll talk about it. It might blow our budget though. So, let's keep moving on with our agenda. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Superintendent. That was wonderful. Now, I'm going to invite Mr. Bogan to the table, and any other presenters that you have with you. I think it's time for the board to hear more about the Sexton logo, and I believe I'm also bringing up Mr. McGraw.
Good evening. I'll just get us started, and then I'll pass it over to Mr. Bogan to do the majority of this, and I'll hit the clicker. So we really appreciate coming here tonight to give a little bit about the progress of the Sexton mascot. This has been a little over a year in the making, and really a little bit longer than that. But as you guys know, this is my last meeting as Director of Communications. And just on a personal note, there's many things that I'm really proud of. But this is really at the top of it, that we were able to do this and to hear voice throughout this process from the community and the students, and especially the students throughout this. It was important to hear from the Native American community, and I learned a lot through this process. So just on a personal note, I want to say thank you to the board for my time here. Thank you to the executive team, and of course the superintendent for all the support. And the communications team. They're not mine, but we're a team. And they've done a great job over the years. And you have a really strong communications team. Jen is going to take on some of my responsibilities, so you guys are in good hands. So I just want to take a moment to just say thank you guys for everything, and I'll see you around. I'll still be around. So enough about me. So now back to the Sexton branding. So now we're at the process where we're going to, at the end of this presentation, show you what the students wanted and give you some renditions of something that they will vote on next. But we'll get to that in just a minute. So I'll let Mr. Bogan go through kind of the process of where we are, what we have done to get to this point, and then we'll do a little unveil of what the students will see next. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We are definitely excited to be coming towards the end of this process, that's for sure. I think I wore the students out with voting. But it's exciting that it is coming to the end, in the sense that they've been a part of the process, and they saw that their voice was heard. So everyone knows last year we received a sizable grant from the American Heritage Fund, and I think it was $87,500 to help us change our mascot and logo. And so at this point now, where we are with the process, and I said from there we went on to students and our alumni vote, and our community vote. And even before that, I met with a group of students, some of our student leaders this summer, and we came up with some names that we could offer to our student body, as well as our alumni, that they might want to vote on. And as you see there, the top 5 ended up being J-Dubs, Big Dogs, Cardinals, Saints, Scorpions, and Vipers. And that was voted on in September. We had a presentation And we've now, which we have always been J-Dubs, now we are sealing it with a mascot. The community, we had community input where we presented it to the community and explained why the change was important. Our students, as well as myself and other staff members who stood behind this change. And we knew it was time. And our district and board did as well. So, see, November 4th, we had the list of names we voted on. J-Dubs was voted on with 29.7%. Definitely thought that would be something because it's been a battle cry for years, even before I started working there. As I was a young man, I remember people talking about J-Dubs. So now putting the mascot, the official mascot, together, we are here now with J-Dubs as the name, Sexton J-Dubs. We've had the survey released to our staff, and now we have gotten feedback from our staff and students most importantly, on what they wanted to be represented as a J-Dub. So, Nell and I want to give them their voice. As you'll see, we'll get to it working through the PowerPoint. And I think, John, we're ready to reveal what our mascot will be.
All right. And here we go.
55.2% voted by our students. Large margin to be a dog, but an appropriate dog that would show, strong character, loyalty, and being fierce, and also being family, which we are all about at Sexton High School.
And
well, implementation process, I don't know if you want to show them what we've came up with, and
certainly.
Yep.
So next, the next slide, we are going to show you three different dogs, three different logos, and that these dogs will then go to the students tomorrow for a vote, and they will have this weekend to vote on which one they like, and then that will be the official mascot of the school. And then we'll talk about it in a minute, but then we won't announce that until a pep rally that'll be on the 14th of April, where the final dog of these three will then be unveiled at that time.
John, before
Yes,
you flip to the
sure.
next slide, I'm sorry.
Of course.
The 55%, were the students, were they voting on a pick list, or were these write-ins?
Yeah. So what happened was the community was asked about what a J-Dub is. So when you approved J-Dubs, we didn't know what a J-Dub was, right? We wanted to get input from the students, especially about what they felt a J-Dub was and how they wanted to be represented with a mascot. So they sent in a lot of different, the community as well. So the community, current staff and students sent in a bunch of different ideas, some with logos included on it, some without. And we then took that to a vote for the students, who then out of that picked a dog. So there was a lot of process through there where the community was able to submit different ideas. When we show you the dogs, if somebody submitted a dog, the reason we didn't maybe pick that particular dog is because of copyright. We need to create our own image so that we can then copyright it, so that we own it and that we're not infringing on other people's copyright. So when you see the three that we'll release here in a second, those were all designed by our graphic designer, Ashley, who did a fantastic job, did a lot of detail. in addition to the mascots that you'll see, once the dog is finalized, then we can incorporate J-Dub into that too with the design. The students will pick the actual dog, and the design is what it is. They'll pick that one, and then we'll incorporate that sort of thing. You'll see they have some collars. If we want to add J-Dubs, there's some stuff we can do like that in the future, but these designs are final once they pick the one. Sure.
Ms. Williams, sure.
I noticed that you all have students with you. Can you tell us who you are and why this means so much to you all? Because you are the voice that we want to hear too.
I'm Joseph Kyle. This means much to me because I look at myself as a dog, not even trying to be cocky, but I look at myself as a dog just because my number one rule is you can't be around me if you don't got no loyalty. And with that, most dogs, I wouldn't even say most, all dogs are loyal. They're family. They're going to look after each other, which I try to do with most of the people that I hang around with, and that's not too many. So that's what a lot of me and my friends have said that dog that was our vote. So, yeah.
For me, my name is Nico Casada. For me, the dog represents family, which I feel like the staff and the students, develop a bond throughout the 4 years of high school, that they do become family, and that the students ourselves represent a family, and that we're fierce, even in our sports. We're never going to back down, even if the odds are against us, and that we're fierce, we're strong, loyal to the T, and that's why I think the dog represents J.W. Sexton.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we unveil what the 3 dogs are?
I don't have a question, Madam President. A comment I'd like to add is I was not on the board at the infamous meeting. I don't know if that's the right word, but as it were, the next day I had a long car ride with Principal Bogan, and he shared something with me that I thought was really profound, that I think no matter what's on this next slide, I think is important to what's right now, which is, he said, Kurt, it's our job to make this iconic. Whatever the board picks, because I think after that meeting, it was pretty clear it was up in the air. Whatever the board picks, we're going to make it iconic. And I think that that's the message right now to the community, is that the West Side community for all those years, and then later the broader community after Schools of Choice, made Big Reds and Big Red family iconic. And that's as a Quaker, I'm saying that. So I just appreciate everything that went into it and all that you guys did. And then just would remind the community right now, it's our role to make whatever's on this next slide iconic.
That's right.
Love that.
President. Thank you very much. I'm so happy that you selected a dog. No, I appreciate what both of you said about the animal. Is a family and is something that's inside of me. Just 2 or 3 days ago, a research in the university proved that the dogs are the animal more similar to the person. Then that is really very personal, and the dog is always with us. And I think that congratulations for choosing this character that is going to represent Sexton.
And sorry, one last thing. I think it would be remiss to not note that 2 of Dr. Rodriguez's most challenging Quaker students are in the building at this presentation, which is maybe a testament to him, and some flowers for him for
they were
us 2
very
being
good
in
dogs. They were very good dogs.
One more question.
Very friendly, very friendly. Thank you, Madam President.
Ms. Williams.
One more question to you in particular, Mr. Kyle. Would it be safe to say legacy? For those who don't know, that's my nephew, so I can so would you also say this represents the legacy lineage of your family and what you all stand for and what you represent in the community?
Yes, I most definitely would, because all of me and my siblings have been a Big Red. I'm gonna be the last one, but my mom was a Quaker. So. But, yeah, I feel like my family holds a strong legacy of loyalty just to the Lansing community. So with me, I feel like it was already installed in me with the loyalty part, and that's really why I like the dog, because the number one thing is loyalty and family.
Ms. Lewis? Yeah, Madam President. Well, all I can say is that you know that a dog is a man's best friend. So we know that for a long time. So congratulations, and we'll see where this goes.
All right, here we go. This is already said a little anticlimactic. We're going to send these to the students, but now we're going to it.
Which then, Madam President, leads me to a question. I don't know if you guys have saw these before. Is this in line with what you had hoped for, anticipated, expected? And for you, Principal Bogan?
Yeah, we definitely are liking what we have come up with, and they got a replacement for that, a Wile E. Coyote looking dog, which I said Jenna got tired, and but we really like the artwork and are looking forward to the students' choice.
Yeah, when I was talking with our graphic designer, Ashley, I said, we talked about having a couple dogs and then maybe something, let's try something else. She had a very fantastic coyote, but it just didn't fit. And then she then created the one on the right just in this last week that, she just did a beautiful job. And I just want to really, just take a moment to thank her. She really spent a lot of time, even outside of work, working on these. And she just did, I think, a great job. And we kind of represented three different things here. So the one on the left kind of has a somewhat mean sort of expression. The one on the side's a little more, or middle's more reflective, and then a little more aggressive on the right side. So we just wanted to give a few different options.
I just would say we look forward to whatever the team students bring back to us on their vote. I love on that last dog on the right, the JW in the name tag. So it sounds like you guys are going to incorporate that no matter which one is selected. So I really like that name is also part of the imagery for that. So yeah.
There'll be that, and then the name J
Yeah.
will be incorporated in different
that's
things.
good.
And like all logos, we can use them in a lot of different fashions. So yeah, next up, the dogs will go to the students this weekend, and we'll know internal Monday, but we'll reveal it on April 14th.
Perfect. Any, Mr. Superintendent?
I just want to say thank you. I know how important things like this are, and certainly coming into this community, knowing how powerful and wonderful the Sexton community is. The fact that this took a long time is good, because I think we're at a place where we all feel really good and happy and comfortable. And sometimes it takes time, but I just want to say that it's because of the hard work of the students, the staff, the educators, and the community and the board. We're at a place that I think we all feel really good about. So I just want to thank all four of you here, this wonderful horseshoe, your staff, everybody that's been a part of it, and go J Dubs, I guess is what I'm supposed to say. So there you go.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
much.
Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda, we have our treasurer's report for this evening. And Madam Treasurer has asked for something unique this evening for us to have additional information about our magic card and banking process with the district. So I'm going to invite Mr. Lane to the table and then turn it over to the treasurer for a report.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. There's been a little bit of discussion about the capacity for forensic accounting and the approval process. And I hear a lot about the amazing work that the team that John Lang and the finance team do. And I thought it would be really nice to share some of that with the community, some of the process, and also give folks a chance to ask questions about this particular topic. So thank you, Mr. Lang, for preparing such a nice report and for allowing us to listen and ask questions about this.
Sure, absolutely.
Take it away.
So let's bring it up. So at the March 2nd board meeting, it was mentioned that there were some questions or the board wants more information about our purchasing card program. And so prepared this very short presentation because I know we got a more important presentation from Ms. Soker in a little bit, so they'll be a little bit longer than mine. But so one of the questions was, is it a commercial card program? Yes, it is. It's through Fifth Third Bank. It is a commercial card program, and it's a consortium with other school districts too. So it's kind of pooled together as part of this whole program. And so if you hear us talk about the magic cards or whatever, that tone, that's the acronym for the Michigan Aggregate Governmental Institutional and Not-for-Profit Consortium Magic Program. So we have been members of this since 2013, and we have default limits of what we set as far as what, depending on what position everybody holds that holds a card, how much they can have as a default credit limit per month. Administrators like myself, or the executive team, or some other higher level administrators are at $5,000 a month. Principals and APs, so that's directors and managers level, $3,000. And we do have a few secretaries and teachers that have cards that have a lower limit. We do have, and you'll see in the next slide after this, some higher amounts for some select few staff like myself, because I charge the Speedway fuel cards that we have for our students on my card, and that's about $140,000 a month that we charge that. So we get a discount by using a credit card to purchase those, so might as well take advantage of that too. So and then for the district-wide, we can charge up to our credit limit is $900,000 a month. There'll be some more information on that. We don't really come close to it now, but you'll see some data later. Currently 92 district staff are card holders. We used to have about maybe 125, 130, and kind of reduce those over the years as either not necessarily needing to have so many teachers with cards or secretaries with cards. So as you can see, 29 administrators, 27 principals, 22 directors, managers, 7 secretaries, and 7 teachers. And the question was asked yesterday in our finance committee meeting, what teacher would need a card? Well, there are some that are magnet focused teachers that part of their duties, they help out the school with a lot of purchasing. So they use that to help out, like the doing purchasing beyond our regular purchase order system. We have a teacher that is the robotics coach, and they do trips and stuff like that. So a lot of times those are all, my son was in robotics when he was in high school. Those are all day events. So, they buy lunch for the kids and so needing it for some of that. So one of the things I wanted to point out though, just as far as what we're required to do, all public school districts are required to post their cardholder information on the budget transparency site for each district's website. So if you go to our website, you just go down to district credit card information. We're required to put on there, as you can see, this is just the first page of our list, but it's what type of card. So we all have MasterCards, who's the name, what their credit limit is, and the last 4 of their card number. Whoever finds that interesting can read that, but that's required as part of our budget transparency information. And the last slide is just more information in general. I put up some data here for the last 5 years of transactions, and it's based on calendar years. And just a note up there for the annual transactions. So back in 2018, we had over 7,000 transactions. 2019, almost 8,300. And then 2020, just under 4,000, and then 3,300 a couple years ago, and jumped back up. So some of that reduction is just because over COVID, there's more many staff in the buildings are having to do purchases with credit cards. But another big change is, and then you can see the reflection in the totals by the year. I put some information on there as far as the top merchants that we use. Border Water and Light was the top one for 3 years and always had been. July of 2020, the Board of Water and Light decided they did not want to allow credit cards to be used for any accounts that have over $3,000 per month spent. We're well over that, as you can see, over 3 million a year. So we're generally around the 250 to 300,000 a month in utility costs through BWL. So you can see that reflection in as of mid-July or mid-2020, that big reduction in Board of Water and Light, and then also reflected in our rebates there. So if you remember, I think it was the board meeting before the first one where Ben interviewed to be superintendent was the last time Fifth Third came with that big novelty check, so that was that one that was like $68,000. It's gradually gone down. One of the things that kind of went down a little bit, it's up from last year or the prior year, but a little bit down. And we kind of discussed this in our executive team meeting this morning that Fifth Third, the rebate program, they have less of a rebate on larger transactions. So we talked about some of the ones that I do for Speedway is trying to find another credit card that I can charge and that still has that rebate program. Still a corporate card, not my personal card. I wouldn't have the limit eligible for that sort of thing. But looking at different options to kind of keep our rebates back up there. I mean, it's not a significant part of our revenue, but it's always nice to get a little bit of money back from all the work we do. With those total transactions number you meant as far as the compliance and the audit of all the transactions, whether it's with Mr. Bogan turning in his P card transactions, his supervisor reviews it. If it's grant funded, it goes through our compliance office for a grants review, and then also our own finance review. So there's usually at least 4 or 5 different sets of eyes looking at all the transactions, making sure they're allowable expenses. If there's sales tax on it, we're taxes them. We ask the cardholder to try to get it either refunded or they need to pay for that because we're not supposed to be paying sales tax. And then just make sure they're using their right account. If they're buying supplies, they're charging it to a correct supplies account, or the compliance office with grants, they're making sure it matches up to their narratives of what was approved by the grantor. So all that translated as far as the rebates. Since 2013, the program over $446,000 we've gotten in rebates since then. So open for questions.
Thank you. I appreciate this detail on this report. I think it's interesting, just like with any card, with Fifth Third, it's the size of the transaction dictates the reback, but it kind of makes me think of like cashback categories, like the cashback categories are the same depending on the purchase. So this is really helpful. And then just noting for our colleagues that it's interesting because Fifth Third works a purchase history of calendar year, not around our fiscal year. So sometimes our purchase categories may change throughout the calendar year. So that's it. That's it. Any questions regarding this presentation? And then I will turn it over to Ms. Go ahead.
I have a
Ms.
couple
Williams.
questions. Do we have corporate accounts that we go through and then the approval process to get there, say the superintendent is going on a trip and, certain hotels, planes and all of that versus putting on a P card or purchase card, is there a process that has to be gone through to do all of that?
Well, for anybody that goes on a conference, they have to submit a conference request form and their supervisor has to approve it first. And then it goes to the compliance office first to make sure. A lot of them are grant funded, so they make sure that those conferences were approved in those grants. And then also to the human resource office, more specifically for them to make sure if there is a sub needed for a teacher if they're going on a conference. We don't have specific corporate accounts with any particular hotel. We do have a travel agency that we use to acquire flights that the contract is lapsed on. We can still use it, but when we stopped all travel going into COVID, at some point during that time, that contract ended. And so now we just have an informal agreement. But for flights, previously to that, everybody had to go through there if they were flying out of town. So that's the only sort of corporate account you could say we have had in the past.
So the Amazon and stuff like that, those are not corporate accounts for Walmart or anything like that?
Amazon, yes. I'm sorry. For Amazon, we have a Business Prime account, so we're members of that. And we started our regular business account in 2015, and then last year we did the Business Prime account. We've talked about it in Executive too, as far as part of that is that the amount of savings we have in shipping costs is just is worth the membership cost of that. It more than covers that. So we're about to be going to our second year of Business Prime. And that goes into one of our purchasing office persons that her card is a little bit higher because it still goes through the same kind of like purchase order process, but then flows into her purchasing card just because of how the account's set up. So that's why you see that as one of the major vendors that we've had over the years.
Any other questions, Ms. Richardson?
I just want to thank Trustee Littlegy for bringing this up because I think Superintendent often says a phrase about being a good steward of people's money, and I think the district's money is one thing, and I think there's a more advanced step that I'm finding and love the work on this, and this includes the Magic Card rebates, which is there's a next level of being a creator of financial advantages, and I think this falls clearly into that, and I think it's important the community knows, and it would be easy for this thing that I think is critical and important to not get PR'd, so thank you for bringing this up.
That's great. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you. Just one quick question. These rebates, are they come in on a monthly basis or
Annually?
Annually? And then they're allocated to any particular account?
We just, in a way, budget for it in our miscellaneous revenue, so it just helps out the general fund.
Miscellaneous revenue, okay. So it's put back to work for us.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Littlegy, would you like to proceed with your regular treasurer's report?
Yes, I just
Thank you, Mr.
want to
Lang.
thank the members of the Finance Committee, Mr. Richardson, Madam President, thank you for your work. And again, Mr. Lang, thank you for your amazing work, and to everybody who works on all the accounting and grant and finance fronts. Thank you so much. It's a monster here, and y'all do a great job, so thank you. So I'll read the treasurer's narrative for February. Here we go. So the detailed treasurer's report for the period of February 1st through 2023 through February 28th, 2023 is attached to this evening agenda. Here are some highlights. The beginning cash and investment balance was $38,203,186. Receipts totaled $18,439,611. While disbursements equaled negative $18,397,291. Net interfund transfers totaled $300,682 in interest from fund investments to the student bond funds, as well as journal entries to remove the due to, due froms in all funds. The monthly transfer to the general fund for the 2022 and 2019 bond expenses was $503,374. The ending general fund cash and investment balance on February 28, 2023 was $39,049,562. The general fund's cash and investment balance is currently is $12,363,650 greater as compared to the same time last year. And if you would allow me some time to just thank all of our donors for the month of February. We had somebody from Jackson National gave us $375 through the Blackbaud. And also Ecolab, we had a couple of $10 donations through Blackbaud from Ecolab. So whoever those wonderful employees are signing up for the payroll deduction donations to us, we thank you. Then Dr. Sarah O'Neill donated $150. I think she may have gotten a used desk and given us, a goodwill donation of $150. And then the Capital Area United Way Lugnuts 50/50 raffle donation to RIF was $792.92. And from Amazon Smile, a donation to Beekman in the amount of $6.70. Those donations total for February $1,344.62. Thank you, everybody, for your generous donations. And Madam President, this concludes the February 2023 Treasurer's Report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any questions for Ms. Logie this evening? We do have it on our agenda to approve the treasurer's report as presented. May I have a motion? Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. I move to the board approve the treasury report according to what was presented to the board.
Thank you. It's been moved by Dr. Rodriguez. Is there any support? Supported by Mr. Lopez. Are there any additional questions or comments from the board this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Next, we're on to item number C. Item letter C, which is the consideration of approvals for some bond bid recommendations. Am I turning it over to a member of the staff? Okay, Ms. Tokar.
Okay, we're good. Good evening, everyone. So for the first two bids that are currently on up for recommendation, both for North Elementary interior renovations and the Riddle Elementary interior and exterior renovations, we are doing some work at both of those schools to make them into K through 8 programs for North, at least. I'm sorry. And then for Rio, the Willow students will be attending Rio while we build the new Willow. So we have a few renovations that we need to do there. These first two bids are just for metal frames for the doors. There's quite a large lead time to get those in. So that's why we're seeing those come up first and foremost. So those are your first two. I'm recommending going with metal frames incorporated for both of those. And then your third one is for more dump trucks for me. They're not all dump trucks, but I think more, and they're not for me, but I figured I'd get a laugh out of you guys. So we have some additional funds that we need to replace some very much so aging equipment that we use for operations and keeping our grounds maintained. So you'll see here that there are for 2 trucks that come with the plows on them. And then we have additional items for lawnmowers and for bobcats. So these are some items that are going to allow us to help with snow removal, grounds removal, hauling equipment, forklifts, plowing, obviously, a large mower with a very large mower deck so we can mow our grounds at a quicker rate and keep them up to date. So I'll take any questions any of you may have.
Thank you. I just want to clarify the vehicles for purchase where the request is to purchase all of them for the total on the bid, everything. And
Correct. Yep. So the recommendation for purchase is for all of the items that are listed there. It's not one above the other. These are for actually multiple items.
Perfect. Yep. And then I just want to note that I appreciate the explanation being thorough in the bids about why we didn't pick the lowest bidder.
Sure, absolutely. And one thing I want to mention real quick is that for all of the vehicles that we're purchasing, we went through My Deal for this. So that's why you don't see multiple bids on here for these. We went through a pre-approved purchase through the My Deal program. In regards to the quote for the North Elementary interior renovations, when we went through the post-bid interview process, it was found that SAR Building Supply did not include their $10,000 contingency in their response. And so if you were to add that in, they would have actually been the higher bid over metal frames. So that's why we moved forward with metal frames as the recommendation. And on the other bid, we did select the lower. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions or comments from board members? Mr. Lopez.
Not a question, but I need to, and I'm sorry I didn't say this before. I need to pull out the bid for purchase of vehicles and multipurpose equipment because I need to recuse myself.
Okay. So when we have the motion, I'm happy to have us approve them as 2 separate motions. That's fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a problem. Mr. Richardson.
Comment to the public. Thank you, Madam President. One, I think we got a steal on these 2 trucks, which is fantastic. And 2, going through the facility stuff, we have a very aging fleet, and that's being very nice. And so this is desperately needed. So if the community's thinking, hey, that seems like a lot of money, it's a great deal, and it's needed and will improve. And the selling point that I like that you didn't mention here was the crew cab allows us to take more people to the job to get it done quicker, which ultimately saves money in itself, which I'm all about and happy to have learned that from Christine and her team.
Thanks for that. The other thing I wanted to mention too, just you talk about the aging vehicles. Most of these are replacing things from that are 2001 or older.
Yeah.
So we're talking about multiple decade old equipment that we've basically been holding together with gum and duct tape. So
Yeah. No, I was going to say I agree. Mr. Richardson's description of aging being nice was an understatement. So we absolutely appreciate that. May I have a motion to approve the bid recommendations for North Elementary School and Riddle Elementary School?
Vice President.
It's been moved by Ms. Williams, supported by Dr. Rodriguez, that we approve the bid recommendations for North Elementary School and Riddle Elementary School. Any additional questions or comments? Great. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. Motion passes 6-0, which leads us to the next bid recommendation, which is a purchase of operation vehicles and multi-purpose equipment. May I please have a motion? Ms. Lilji?
I move that we accept the recommendation for operation vehicles and multipurpose equipment in the bid as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved by Ms. Lilji, supported by Dr. Rodriguez. Any additional questions or comments? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One abstain.
Abstain or recuse, yeah.
Motion passes 5-0-1. All right. That takes us to our information study presentation. And now we're in. We got this, guys. I'm going to invite our staff members to the table for our update on human resources.
what's in the middle? Just grab that mic. Thanks. Good evening again, everybody. I'm going to make this quick because I've got some basketball to watch. I'm just... Yeah. So I just want to introduce my guest really quick before we go ahead and get started. This is our Director of Human Resources, Mark Manley, who joined us about 8 months ago. 8 months ago this week?
7 months ago today.
7 months ago today. Oh, see. I feel like it's been a very long time that we've been together already, apparently.
That could be good or bad.
It's good. It's good. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to do a presentation for you tonight. I welcome questions as we go through the slides, just because there's quite a bit of data here. And the first thing that we're going to go ahead and get started with is how we're bringing humanity to human resources. We had a search for a new human resources director, and we found Mr. Manley. And one of the things we've tasked him with is bringing the humanity aspect back to human resources and showing how we care about our staff and how we support them. So I'm going to go ahead and let him take over for this part of the presentation.
I would first like to say, since this is the first time I've had to address the board, thank you for the opportunity. It's an honor to be in this district. I would also take a moment of personal privilege to say that in my first 35 years, I didn't always work for a superintendent or board of education that cast a vision for excellence and cast a vision for a world-class school district. And I just heard Superintendent Schuldiner say in a meeting last evening, for a district of excellence and national prominence. All leaders don't issue that call. I'm honored to be in a district that is moving forward with that leadership. As Christina said, when I was hired, one of the first things she said to me was, we need to bring more humanity or humanness to human resources, because after all, we're in a people business, and we are making every attempt each and every day to do that. It's also my pleasure to work with Christina and work for Christina. She is a tough boss. In my view, that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, because you know what the challenge is, and my staff and I are trying to meet her challenges and the challenges set forth by the superintendent each and every day. Some of the statements that I'm going to read to you are aspirational, but we are working on each and every one of them to bring more human connection to human resources. We are answering the call of the superintendent and the COO to provide a world-class human resources department. And further, We think we can do it. We believe we can do it. We serve customers, both internal and external, with grace, dignity, and respect. We aim to honor people. We honor people for who they are and the skills that they bring to us. We honor people by assisting them with the needs that they bring. Our diversity is our strength. We ensure that our employees get paid. Our goal is to pay each employee accurately and on time. And we are not perfect, but we have a high success rate. We are building and training an almost entirely new staff, and that presents all kinds of challenges because of either a lack of a knowledge base or just a need for training. Today in meetings, we talked extensively with our human resource generalists about areas of training they need and want and areas of training that we see and want. We're building and training that staff around the core values of respect and high quality human connection. We are already creating bonds and strengthening communication between departments through in-person interdepartmental meetings. Christina often says there's too much email. Sit down and talk. And she is right, and we are doing that. We are attempting to define our success as follows. We are leading and assisting in filling staff positions at a high rate with high quality people. We are demonstrating excellent listening and response skills. We are succeeding in providing the needed level of customer service for each customer. In other words, personalized service. We are respectful and we do the things we say we will do. We all know the value of our word and making a commitment. One of the things we're doing to build our staff, and I'm very excited about this, is a social emotional learning strategy in that each morning we have morning meeting at 8:15. We meet every morning as a staff. There's limited to 15 minutes. Sometimes it only takes us 10 minutes. Here's some of the things we do during morning meeting. We have social emotional learning and interaction. We have a time to interact as a staff. We are defining our focus areas and we revisit those. The staff would tell you, I repeat myself often so that we stay on focus. We communicate with each other. We laugh, we share with each other. We engage in call and response activities. And if the board would like a demonstration, we can have one later. We support and check in with each other. We get in the work zone. And those are the things we are doing during our morning meeting to enhance communication. We are looking for people as a staff who are committed to improving students, committed to improving those students academically, socially, and emotionally. We need committed professionals who want our students to succeed and who will do the necessary things to ensure their success. We need people that care about students because that's where it all starts. Our staff is also listening. We do a lot of listening. Organizations like the Lansing School District, we really have to think about the employee experience in an era where it's difficult to recruit and retain employees. All of you know from any news sources that you may have that we are operating in an entirely new human capital environment. And it presents challenges that we're not always prepared for, but we're aware of it and we're listening and we're working on it. We listen, we solve problems. We listen, we counsel and console. We listen, we support our employees. We listen and we provide advice. We listen and we tell people the truth, just like a true friend does. We are building our skills in emotional intelligence so that we can better understand people and provide solutions and suggested remedies to people.
Thank you. Moving forward, where I'm going to take over with all of the boring data, even though some of you at the table probably find it very interesting. Like a nerd. Absolutely, go for it.
Madam President, if you don't mind. Thank you for that, Mr. Manley. Eloquent. I'm glad you said listening because for the first part, I'm like, oh no, all of this stuff. And then I had wrote down listening early. And so I'm a believer in leadership being something you do with your team and not to your team. And I'm probably within 30 feet of one of the best teachers in this district. Have you been reaching out to them to speak with them about this vision and all of this things we're going to deliver in the next, in your 8 months here?
To the staff, to current teachers?
Current teachers.
Yes, we have. So, I mean, not directly and intentionally, but because I interact with teachers every week and we are busy listening to them. We are really pleased with the LSEA leadership and not only Chuck Albert's their president, but the context that they bring to us. When I'm in buildings, I hear from teachers, I hear from secretaries, I hear from administrators. And yes, listening's at the core of our work. If we're not good listeners with excellent response skills, we will not be successful. We could do it more intentionally, and I appreciate that suggestion.
I'm always conscious of, and I love Chuck and I love that group, and I'm here because of Chuck and that group. And part of that is ensuring that those people who are these great teachers who are here in this district in plenty, they don't necessarily always feel what they tell me is that someone's looking to hear from them. And so I hope that that's all true.
Absolutely. It's my 5th school district, and what you just described as people not being heard, whether the student population was 3,000 or 11,000 where I last worked, everyone says that. And one way to fix it is to model it. Be in the building and listen and talk to people.
One thing that I just wanted to add on to that is we've kind of adopted something that the instructional team has been doing. So we've gone to a single point of contact for our principals to have somebody under the instructional leadership of Deputy Superintendent Benavides. And we've kind of mirrored that in human resources, where we've given the principals and the leaders in the district a single point of contact in human resources to be able to reach out to. Formerly, the office was set up that, you talk to this generalist if it was about an assistant, and this one if it was something else. We've gone to a single point of contact to help build that relationship. And then what we've started to do now is having our HR generalist be out in the buildings multiple times a week to be present, to hear things, and to be visiting and be in the space where our teachers are teaching, our assistants are working, where our principals are, to see how we can provide assistance and be visible. That's one of the things, I'm gonna go a little bit off track here. Just as a COO, I've been trying to implement with all of the departments. Our operations teams are out in buildings every single week, looking at things, asking questions. What do you want to see different about cleanliness, food, whatever it might be? And they're seeing the same face every single week, and they know that we're there, we're going to be there and trying to be present. So that's what we're trying to expand across everything. Absolutely. So to move into the data, I just want to share a few numbers. There's lots of numbers with human resources, but just a couple of things to get you more acquainted. So currently we are in the process of hiring 15 staff members for the Human Resource Office. So we put a lot of power behind supporting all of our employees in the district. And one thing that we're excited about is that we'll have 3 new recruiters in the office. We know that recruitment is a huge thing. As Mr. Manley talked about, the human capital situation that we're in, we need the recruitment experts on the team. We have worked with over 150 staff members on obtaining their teacher certifications, whether that be through a traditional source, through a traditional 4-year or 5-year program, or with an alternative certification program. We are currently scheduling 3 visits to historical Black colleges and universities, and those 3 universities actually don't have job fairs, which has been very interesting. But what we're going down to do is to speak with their leadership, speak with the College of Education. Those 3 universities are the North Carolina State, Fayetteville State University, and North Carolina Central. So we'll be making a trip there. The the Human Resources Office also has a 27-point recruitment plan. I'm happy to share it with all of you. I don't want to go through all 27 points, but we've made it, the point of this is that we've made it very intentional, very well-rounded. Recruitment is not just a single thing or a handful of things that you need to do to recruit now. You need an entire package and something that's very well-rounded. We've spent over 325 hours counseling in consultation with and navigating staff around how to achieve teacher certification. So we're trying to promote within. So we're trying to work with people who are either substitute, guest teachers, assistants, who want to pursue their teaching certificate, and working with them to try to get them where they want to be and where we want them to be as well. And we've hired 47 new employees since the start of the school year.
Ms. Tokar.
Sure.
Calendar year.
Did I say school year? I'm sorry.
Looking at the human resources by number, what time frame are we looking at for the 150 teachers working on their teacher certification? Is that a point that's this current point in time?
Yes, it's at this current point in time. So the vast majority of those all have a 4-year degree. They're all currently with us the vast majority of them working in a classroom because they have the appropriate degrees. We've enrolled them in an alternative certification program, and they have up to 2 to 3 years to work through that program. They're virtual programs. They have mentors. We have mentors here for them in the district. So they've got time, but they're getting the education while they're also teaching. So it's a very unique situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One other thing that I wanted to mention that I didn't put on here, but I've been told it's okay to share, and so I'm happy to do so publicly, is that we also have a $2,000 signing bonus for new teachers in hard-to-fill positions. So I want to make sure that we mention that, and we're happy to answer any questions to any potential new employees about that. Now we're going to get into some employee and student demographic data. So here you'll see in the middle, we've listed out the demographic data for our students in the district. On the left-hand side, I want to point out our principals. That group is much more reflective of our student population than what you'll see on the right-hand side, which is our teachers. We know we've got some work to do there to better reflect the students in the district, and that's why we're reaching out, expanding, going into other states, visiting HBCUs. So we're expanding our network to try to engage people who reflect our students and have them be in front of our students every day. The next several slides are going to be a breakdown of each bargaining. Oh, sure.
Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you. See this demographic, do you have any goals and objectives in the next 3 years, how to change that?
Absolutely. So we have a recruitment and retention team. We've partnered with our unions to try to get together to work to how to best tackle this. A lot of this goes into building relationships. A lot of relationships have been built in the past but have fallen through the cracks. So part of it is rebuilding those relationships, and also growing our own, I think, is a huge piece. So when we get down into the additional breakdowns of the different groups that we have working in the districts, you'll see that we have other groups in the district that better reflect our student population, and working with them to grow to their education to want to be staff, our teaching staff.
And if I ask you and the superintendent a year from now to come back with these numbers,
Absolutely.
are we going to see maybe no difference?
Our goal is absolutely to have a difference in it.
Then
would say that
I will appreciate that. The 1 year from now, we have a report that we can compare the things that you are telling us now and what is going on in 1 year, later in 2 years or 3 years. But the way it is very difficult to accept for me.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're hoping to do with all of these ISSs is to create a model so that you can expect this every year. You know, the idea that now we know, and it doesn't always have to be March, but we can pick the month. And then if March is HR, then this kind of presentation we're going to use as a model. And you've already seen that with the 98B reports. When Jessica and I presented it the first time, we did the same model the next time, so you can start to compare. Everything that we're doing in this district is so that you can hold us accountable to that growth. Because as you mentioned, you know, certainly having leadership, principals, building leaders represent, our district, I think is really wonderful. But when you look at classroom teachers and see the difference between the demographics and the student population, it's something that we need to focus on. And not only is the HR department doing a great job doing outreach and things like that, but you'll see in these next slides, if we really build our Grow Your Own program, you'll start to see quite a big shift. And that's the hope.
So I'm a little bit of a pack rat, and I actually have last year's data presentation. Now it's a little bit different this year because you said principals. Last year you gave it to us by bargaining group, the race demographics. You're going to do it by race. So I think I will compare it because I'm seeing there actually has been a little bit of the gap close and disparities. Where it's still glaring is in the Hispanic ratio, but Black and white ratios are that gap is closing between the student population and leadership population. Just want to point that out. My pack rat tendencies help sometime. Mr. Lopez and then Mr. Richardson.
No, I'm just kudos you.
Oh, okay. Mr. Lopez.
Just a quick question. On this page, how many principals are we talking about?
We
What
have,
are they?
yep. So the principal piece is, I knew you were going to ask that question. I've got it. Let me grab it.
But you could give me the whole numbers for those three areas.
You want just, okay, so the principal data we have on this, on the slide is just head principals, which would not be everybody under LASA because LASA includes assistants and anybody who's a director.
Right. So it's 25 head
25
principals. The head, just the head principals, not assistant principals.
Students?
The students are 10,629.
And teachers?
Teachers are 851.
Okay, so then I can relate
Mhm.
whole numbers to percentages.
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
again, the nice thing about if we're going to do this the next time, we'll make sure to add that on that slide. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so moving to the next one, this is our LSEA, which is our teachers union. Just added a couple of things in here. This includes deans of students, student support specialists, and instruction specialists. Also includes all of our ancillary special education staff. So you'll see here we've broken it down by age of the employee, years of service, gender, and race and ethnicity. So here's the numbers actually broken out for you. I don't know if you guys have any questions. Sure, absolutely.
This is where my questions start, and I
Okay.
suspect I might have been one of those people that you alluded to would be interested in this data.
Yep.
Looking at the years of service and then the age of people, my brain immediately thinks, oh, this is interesting. Our veteran population of teachers is about the normal bell curve, but it appears that we have a bunch of new teachers who are maybe in their second career and are not, young teachers. I don't know the other way to say.
Yes,
I
that
learned
would
under
be.
him. I don't know that another way to say it.
That would be an accurate statement. Yeah. So years of service too. Yeah. They may not necessarily be on their second career. They may be coming to us from another school district, whether that be out of state or inside of the state of Michigan as well.
Would I be wrong in thinking that's a fractional piece of it though? Inbound teachers represent roughly gut percentage
Um,
under 50.
yeah, I would
Okay.
say under 50.
Thank you. And I guess I want to note this, Madam President, if you're okay with it. I play favorites, and Christina's one of my favorites so far that I've met. It will not maybe appear that way to everybody. Dr. Rodriguez said something several board meetings ago about we're having successes, but I don't think we're being successful. And that's not a knock on anything.
Yeah.
I just am not satisfied. Like many of us are not satisfied. I don't think we have a room full of people that are satisfied, but it's not lost on me that somebody watching this might think, oh, some of this is contentious. So I just want to put it, it's not.
No.
You've helped me a lot. I love the way you explain data. But I think this is a paramount issue and we have to be overly critical on it. We have to be.
Absolutely.
And one thing I want to point out about the years of service, and we've been pretty public about this, is at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a decision that was made by the district that was one based on the unknown. They did not necessarily know how many students they thought were going to come back. They were looking at anything from 8,000 kids, 8,500 kids, and to Lansing's wonderful credit, it didn't hit that hard. It got down to about 92, 9,300. And then since we've been here and done the recruitment, we're up to about 97, 98. So because there was a fear and there was a hiring based on much lower numbers, that kind of created a hole. And then you add that to the hard to staff stuff. That's one of the reasons why now a lot of the newer staff, so 0 to 5 years of service, is trying to plug that hole. So getting to find people from outside, be it teachers from another district or second career or just, folks. But you do make a really interesting point about the age bell curve and that some of those folks are in fact second career or coming out. And that I think is a testament to the recruitment efforts that are being happened. But you are really right to point that out. And, we were very public, in about 2020, there was a fear that COVID was going to wipe us out, basically. And so they didn't hire enough. And so you had this hole, and that's what that 0 to 5 is really showing.
Yep. I just want to mention too, bringing up second careers, I just want to commend those people that have kind of answered the call. And so we have several people that have lived, worked, done other things for their life and have answered the call of coming into education and wanting to be a part of our students' lives.
and I will very selfishly point out that that is also Christina Tokar. So she came from the banking world.
I do have a question, because I'm looking at this data and it takes me back to the DEI survey as well. And it's heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking because the numbers that I'm seeing, the demographics, and then the things, it's not a reflection of that. So how is the DEI tying into this going forward? And then again, a simple suggestion solution, are we doing many job fairs for parents who may need jobs that can come in and fill these, because I have yet to see them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'll oblige me, later in the presentation, I talk about our recruitment strategies, and a lot of that is building a parent network. But to quickly kind of answer your question about DEI, we actually have two universities, two HBCUs that are currently working with the district to provide professional development around different items, including eliminating instructional biases and that sort of thing. So we're working through DEI, tying together with them, with the HBCUs, to address not only things like instructional biases, but hiring practices, to make sure that we're not having biases when we are hiring someone, when we're going through that process. So that's currently what we're working with. We are continuing to work with DEI to go through that process to continue to address these issues, because this is a very large concern for us. That's why we're trying to be so transparent with the data, so we know exactly where it's at. We know it's a problem. And like Ben said, we want to hold ourselves accountable for this and continue to work at it. Sure. So the two that we're using to provide professional development are Voorhees University and North Carolina Central.
I would just add about this topic that, and I would love to explore this topic more fully, having worked on workforce diversity teams in 2 other districts, and that's something with Christina's approval and Ben's approval that we can organize, because they're nationally, and I worked with 2 committees where the majority of the committee were African American and other minorities, and the pipelines are not where they need to be. That you have people in the pipeline coming out with a degree, whether it may be Hispanic, Asian, African American, and it's a big problem. I served on the Dean's Advisory Council at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio, near Xenia, which is a historically Black university, very well known. The oldest, if not the oldest, very close to the oldest university. And there's a big body of research and many questions to be discussed, and we want to honor that. It is our goal to honor that need.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our LEA data. So this is our assistance union. So most commonly, there are instructional assistants, both special education and general education, and our lunch assistants. So here you'll see we have a much different kind of curve or slant in our age bracket. So I know when I showed this to executive team, they're like, wow, look at all of the people that we have over 41 or over 56. And again, I want to commend some of our employees who are up there. A lot of them are grandparents who are here volunteering and working in their grandchildren's schools. So that's why you're going to see a little bit more of a curve there. Any questions about LEA?
Just one thing to point out, when you compare this age curve to the years of service curve, a lot of this is based on what Christina was just saying, that you might have folks that are retired or in their second career doing things like lunch assistants, instructional assistants. One pitch I will make to anybody listening at home, one of the great things about these jobs is they can be for 2 hours, they can be for 4 hours, they can be in the middle of the day, in the morning. So that's why it seems to really appeal to kind of that older population. And what we love is when grandparents, cousins, aunts, etc., whoever comes in and helps out the schools, and we're happy to pay you, get you health care, whatever you need. So it's pretty great.
Thanks, Ben. All right, next we'll move on to LAES, which are our lovely secretaries. So one thing to point out here, you'll see that the gender chart is very much skewed, but I would like to say the one male we have is a phenomenal secretary, and I wish we had more. So kudos to him. If you're listening, you know who you are. And here you'll kind of see the bell curves a little bit back to normal with age, but we're kind of hitting the higher numbers there at the top. And then again, years of service, we're looking at a second career for a lot of our secretaries. LASA. So here's where you're going to get our entire administrative unit. So not just the principals, this is the entire administrative unit, including assistant principals and directors. You'll see we're a little bit more skewed here on our race and ethnicity when we include the entire group, but a lot more years of service. So, and I would like to point out that the people this is promotion within. So we have a lot of people that have been in the district for a long time that started here as an assistant, as a teacher, and then now have moved on to being an assistant principal or a principal. I know I've got at least one sitting behind me if she's still here. So any questions about this group? Hot on the mic, Kurt, I think, yeah.
So while I have one of the best teachers, we're doing a lot of no free shout outs, but I'm one of the best teachers in the district about 30 feet away. I believe the youngest principal in the history of the United States is about 11 feet away. And so when I look at a chart that has age and I look at the gap that I suspect you're having, which is attracting young teachers, I think there is something there to be reconciled with. It would be interesting if we could find a way to be the district that aged down that principal group, not to, for one other reason other, it's in many ways it's time. I mean, we got a lot of people that have done a long time. And what we're seeing, a la what's here today, we're having a lot of success in many districts with young principals. Maybe the most success that we're having in a lot of urban districts is young principals. And so I just hope that there's a plan. I don't know if we have to necessarily spin our wheels on that, but whereas years of service, I think, was about to get touted as a thing, I actually think that might be a bit of a negative in many ways, in that we're probably not the district yet where people are going to wait it out 30 years for it to happen for them. And I think figuring out how we age that down is another one of these seminal things that we particularly have to figure out in Michigan and in an urban district and in Lansing of all places. So I think seeing a zero there is concerning, and attrition will take care of some of it, but also at the same time, I think we have to be intentional about making this a place. This could be a flagship point of parity to be the place to be a young principal.
Yeah, and certainly we would never want to talk about a protected class in a way that we would be doing one thing or another. But the most important thing and the point of the comments, of course, is talent will out. We have to make sure that if you are good at your job, you get to do your job. And we as a district care very deeply about making sure that if you have that skill, we don't want to put things in your way. We don't want to create those barriers. And so I really appreciate what you said. I represent and understand the comment that was made earlier. And I think what matters and how we become that district of excellence is that we have excellence in every position. And it's not about age. It's not about, anything other than can you do that job? But to the point that was made earlier, when you have glaring holes when it comes to things like race and ethnicity, that becomes something that's really, really damning. But I think for the points here is, if you have the skills, if you have the talents, we don't want to get in your way. And I very much appreciate that. And I do hope that we can be a draw, that you are starting your career and you want to do something amazing, you come to Lansing. That's the key. And I really appreciate what you said, Kurt. Thank you.
President. Thank you. I thank you, Superintendent. You see all these groups, the age between 30 and 55 is the majority. We have a lot of opportunities for the employees to develop them in many, many ways. We have the people there, then I think we should have training, asking them to be loyal or whatever to the district, to the students, to the community, that we keep the culture of these people, is the majority, and between 30 and 55. And that is the future too, with the other, the future 55 to whoever retirement is today. Then see how we can do with these people to promote them to stay in the district, to stay in the profession or be a teacher, it's the more difficult time, situation you have right now. Then it's a challenge for all of us to take care of them.
Absolutely. And I just, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate what Superintendent Schulner said. Since he's been here, we have looked for talent, right? I know a lot of times there's a lot of what seems like bureaucracy, like you have to do your time to move up and that sort of thing. And we're not there. I mean, we're moving away from that. Obviously, we're still there a little bit when you look at this. But one other thing that I did want to kind of point out is some of the years of service, even though it might look big, they might have been a teacher for quite a long time there. And just recently, since Ben's been here, we've saw talent and we've promoted them. So we have several new assistant principals that have been put into those positions because we saw the talent and did it. So I want to let you know at least that we're starting that work. The data can be a little bit misleading when it comes to that because they were a teacher here for a long time. We saw it, we put them on and got it going. Yeah.
That was the question.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. Again, to clarify, LASA is not only principals, right?
Correct. It also includes directors and assistant principals. So like director of technology, director of DEI,
Directors, department directors.
department
and
directors.
principals.
Yes, and principals. Yes.
And others, okay.
Yes.
Just so we can be clear on the numbers because they don't
Sure.
match.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Principals was very specific principals. That's why it didn't
Right,
say LASA.
right.
Yep. Hmm.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, next is CCLPI, and these are our public safety officers. I actually appreciate these graphs a little bit more than some of the other ones that we have. So, any questions on these ones? Okay. I'll go ahead and move on. This is meet and confer. So these include supervisors, coordinators, specialists, administrative assistants. So when you think about, these are kind of, a lot of the time, our non-instructional staff. So John's finance team, technology office, human resources. I could kind of go on and on. That's this group of staff here. This is where you're going to see the spread be a little bit more young.
I just would add here, I hope that is part of the plan, and you guys are doing a great job managing a lot of this stuff, but when we look at DE&I, and I think this group as a district, we're also often thinking about teachers, but I look at this group as probably overrepresented by a particular race. And again, it could be, I look at points of parity. I come from business like you, so I only look at points of parity. Like, what could we do to be the place where African-American, Mexican, Asian Americans come to be the IT person or the comms director or any of those things? And I look at this as one of those things too, that I hope it's not lost in, as much as I'm a big fan of us working with my buddy, Dr. Gerlando Jackson at Michigan State on finding young, particularly minority teachers. I think the efforts have to be in that same vein here. And I assume they are, but just wanted to comment on that.
Absolutely. Just to reply to your comment, I can at least speak on the technology department. I'm going to go with, out of the 6 last staff that we hired, every single one of them was a minority except for one. So there is a push there. It's just to bring it to a point, absolutely, there is a push there to do that.
Madam President, if I may, piggybacking on Trustee Richardson, I need caffeine. I just overall, as a person who's new to the board but has been in the district for some time, I find that we're more top heavy and not diverse on the top side versus overall being in the school systems and everything. It's not a representation of our district. I mean, we have probably one of the best outside of Detroit urbanized districts. I mean, very diverse, very multicultural, everything. And we need to look at that because it's hard. I'm actually sitting here like, wow, this is interesting. And as a side note, I actually did apply for one of the HR positions as a minority who has an HR degree and didn't even make the cut. So I'm like, wow, this is different to see that and to be sitting here now to say what's different. So just a side note to be aware that I think there's a lot more we need to be doing top down. And I think the downside is being misrepresented quite a bit and missing out on a lot of opportunities where some of the people up there probably could go into the districts, into the schools and, technology in the school versus being there. So some things we probably need to shift and reevaluate and look at.
Heard and understood.
I think there's also interesting, I don't know what the superintendent's opinion is on this. I think what you've put together for us is incredible, and I think it should be public facing if it's not. I don't know what boundaries that has, but I talk to young people. The Nico, who's the gentleman that was here, he's part of my internship program. He's going to end up with a job with one of my buddies one day from just knowing just different stuff. I think when we talk to those kids, a lot of them are scared of the places I'm connected because they don't look like them. But here is a district that looks like them, and I just think it's not easy because what you guys can disprove that it's easy because of the market and hiring. I think it's just another avenue like, hey, look who we are, and you should feel comfortable, young person who maybe doesn't look like the surrounding school districts, working with us and for us, and being able to have a career where you don't have to leave to go find what you're looking for. It's here. You can get done at Central or Michigan State or LCC even and stay here.
Absolutely.
But I think showing them this, like, hey, there's opportunities here. Like we would value. Everyone says they value diversity. Even when Mr. Manley started speaking, sometimes I have to be unbiased and think, all right, stuff that sounds too good, I'll turn off on. I think showing people like, hey, we're a diverse district. We're saying we're not meeting that representation. Here's what it looks like. I think that would be attractive to a percentage of people.
Absolutely. And just to point out what Ms. Williams said, being an extremely diverse, we are the third most diverse school district in the state of Michigan, and our staffing does need to reflect that. On to the last group is our executive team. So I wanted to point out here, it's not just the people that you normally see here sitting at the board meetings. It also includes Mr. Manley sitting next to me, and our three single points of contact are so Ms. Johnson Ray, Mr. Ariel Rodriguez Pena, Mr. Mitch Foster, and our director of special education are also included in this group. We have one semi-younging in that group.
29 and a half.
I had to kind of point it out and rub it in an ET this morning.
I actually don't know who it is.
Right here.
I'm kidding.
Okay, so moving on from that, I want to go over our staffing fill rates. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of the percentage of positions we have filled and where we have more work to do. So for our LSEA, our teachers group, we're 90% filled at the moment. The current openings that we have in this group are 19 in elementary, 39 in middle years, 28 in high school, and 6 in administration. And just to make a point here, these are not all teachers, classroom teachers. These are ancillary staff. It could be a social worker, it could be PT, OT, resource room, those types of things. But this does also include classroom teachers. So I just want to be very transparent about that.
So the board knows that I give them a weekly update. These are those numbers, right? So when I break it down, there's the teacher number and then there's the everybody number. And so Christina's giving you the everybody number. And just to remember again that an SSS, a dean, things like that, they're in the LSEA Educators Union, and that's why it's broken down this way.
Then moving to the middle with our assistants, we're at an 80% fill rate. So here, just kind of echo what Ben said earlier, we are happy to have additional assistants. A lot of the openings that we do have in the assistants group are lunch assistants and special education classroom assistants. So we are definitely in need for that group, and we are creating relationships and partnerships to try to recruit additional people to work in this group. And this is where we can really do a lot with our parent network to kind of start to get the foot in the door, kind of as Ms. Williams had mentioned earlier. So working with our parents to recruit them into the district and have them work here. And then for the last group is our secretaries group. Very proud of this. We currently only have 2 secretaries open, and we are currently in the process of receiving applications and getting ready to interview for the one opening we have, which is at Riddle Elementary. And then the administrative group, that is a secretary that we have that supports our special education department. So obviously, based on our openings, we have a lot of work to do, as we've already talked about earlier. So some of the recruitment strategies that we have going on right now, this month, it's free for us to have a sponsored job post through Indeed. And we've seen a lot of hits coming from that. So based on what we've been experiencing so far this month, we're going to move forward with a membership for that. because I would say that our hits have probably doubled, if not tripled, going through the Indeed sponsored, which is something you have to pay for. Normally it's not free. Obviously social media, we use Mr. John and our lovely communications team to continue to promote. So those of you that don't follow us on Facebook, I would love for you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all of the things. I don't know if we're on TikTok, but all of the other, no TikTok, John says. One of these days we'll have Superintendent Schuldner do a TikTok for us. And then we post on several national education job sites. So trying to get our name out there across the entire country and get our name saturated in other markets. I didn't put it up here, but we obviously participate in all of the in Michigan sites, whether it be through MASBs, school boards, through the principals, groups and associations. We do post out on all of those sites.
I just
Madam
was,
President. Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I have a cousin and my cousin-in-law, her husband, they both teach for Los Angeles Unified. They're fluent in Spanish. They teach in Spanish immersion. I'm constantly trying to get them to come here. My cousin-in-law is Asian, and so their kids are Asian, and they are scared to come to Michigan because they've had a lot of difficult experiences with racism and hate. And I keep trying to say it's not like that in Lansing, but of course it's like that everywhere. And I just didn't know if that was any kind of feedback you'd ever heard as we're trying really hard to recruit people, especially people who may not have ever been here before in the state. That I think is something that that we need to consider too, is like, how do we address that thing that maybe you're not hearing about at the job fairs when you're saying, hey, come on over to Michigan. And they're like, oh no, my kids won't be safe there. So.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. And we actually hear the opposite. When people do actually come and bring their students here, I'll take a little bit of privilege here. And, me personally, I moved my child into this district for that same reason. At a smaller district, wasn't working out too hot. I brought my child here because my child is a little different for different things. And my child fits in here. Nobody is different because everybody is different, if that makes sense. So there is no difference.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But maybe that could be something to know as we're working on those recruiting efforts, that maybe that's something we could proactively address a little bit.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a great point.
I would just say, as a point of conversation, it's not really a question. It may form into a question. Give me a moment of privilege for a second. Something that I experienced at that point about recruiting, it's something that attracts minority applicants to an institution, which we're an institution, is seeing minority leadership. And so when they don't see minority leadership, the institution gets labeled a PWI, which is a predominantly white institute. So it doesn't matter what population they're serving if the workforce doesn't reflect this. So I went through this. I worked for an agency that was headquartered in Grand Rapids. Right. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And so we struggled with getting our HR department to understand that you just saying we're going to pay you to be here. But if I don't feel safe driving home after work because I'm in a sundown town, then I'm not going to come here. So getting people to understand that Lansing's not a sundown town and it's safe and it can be, but you have to have that reflected and have that reflected in the leadership and the personnel. And I appreciate that this district is being intentional about having that reflected.
Yeah, and one thing that I would point out, especially having leadership be seen as diverse and leadership being seen as reflective, that's why I was really happy when Christina showed the principal diversity when the leader of the school, when we have a majority of the leaders of our school being of color, and we have empowered our principals to do more of the hiring, that actually is very powerful. And I think one of the things that I've been talking about since I got here, and the HR department certainly knows this, is when you decentralize hiring so that you can let schools themselves be part of that, and those leaders can then go into the community that they're from and say, hey, I am the principal, you know me, that's actually really, really helpful. And so my hope is you're going to start to see the teacher rank colors, the ranks change over the next couple of years because the leadership of the schools is changing. But again, one of the things about teaching, of course, is there's credentialing and there's certifications and things like that. So we have to be really intentional, and that's again to highlight going to the schools themselves. If you just have an open job fair and you say, hey, anybody who wants to work for the district, come on down, which we do and we love, the likelihood of finding somebody who is credentialed to be a teacher in that open call is less than if you're actively saying we're going to an ed school, we're going to a school. And so that's where you see our job is to do all of the different things, be it having community stuff, be it through the principals, be it through the universities, et cetera, et cetera. So, and you'll see there's more. I mean, you can talk about more of this stuff. So,
Madam President. This slide also kind of hits on what the genesis of my interest in this topic was, which is as I've shared, my brain doesn't work with hey, we're trying to hire. Okay, I need to know what are we doing? And so on the Indeed specifically, you come from a business background, so I don't know how much it's used in education. I actually have no frame of reference for that. But one of the things that I've seen in companies that we've consulted with is they're not tracking filtered out applicants. Like Indeed is an ATS, which doesn't always let every resume get through to our HR team. I think if we're not doing that, I think we've got to be cautious about how many get filtered out by Indeed because they make mistakes. They're fallible like anybody else. But I think from there's also still a recruiting tool because of maybe we don't get them as a teacher, but there's all these other openings in SSS and all this stuff that I still, if I'm you, want to hear from that. And so I just want us to be mindful of that. And I'd love to see those kind of numbers of, hey, we did it Indeed. We got 43 applicants, 100 people applied. What happened to the other 57? Because to me, they're still candidates for something in the district. And then on the next page, you're talking about some hiring fairs. I'd love to see some iteration of hey, we went to a hiring fair, 6 people showed up, 2 applied. I think that to me is how I know we're trying.
Yep. So I actually have a little bit of information for you on that is, I didn't mention this in the HR by numbers, but we also have a 21-point follow-up plan. Okay. So if we have anybody that expressed any interest being an employee of the district, whether or not we decide to hire them for that exact position that they wanted, we follow through with them and talk to them about other positions that they may qualify for, and we'll put you there and we'll help you work to where you applied for. So that is something that has been put in place since Mr. Manley did come on, and that's something that we're working through. Is just because it's a one and done and you didn't necessarily get that position, it doesn't mean we don't want you here as an employee, and we'll work with you to try to find something that's a fit. So we are working towards that. So thank you for that comment, and definitely made note about the Indeed portion of that. So as far as for building relationships, so we currently have MSU seniors, so 4th year seniors that are going through the College of Ed program, and then we have our 5th year, not 5th year seniors, but 5th year students who are interns. And in that group of MSU interns, we don't just have MSU interns, we actually have 2 here from Arizona State University and 2 here from Ferris State University that are a part of our internship program. So we currently work together with Deputy Superintendent Keck and his team we've had several meetings with these groups of students to talk about what are your next steps. Do we get you through an alternative certification program? We want you here. The principals, the teachers that you've been interning for, we want you here. The kids love you. We want to keep you on. So we've had several meetings with them. We actually just had one yesterday morning at 8 a.m. Where we brought in 10 of our interns. We talked to them about next steps. They filled out applications. A lot of them have already gotten conditional job offers and accepted for next year. So that's information I hope to bring to you at one of our upcoming board meetings, outside of an ISS, to kind of let you know where we're at with all of those pieces for hiring.
Nice. And along with that, I'm interested. I flew to Las Vegas a couple weeks ago next to a gal who was a teacher at Gardner. She started her career in there and then left. And Caucasian woman, young, from Canton, Michigan. I think it's tough sometimes to have these conversations, but her placement, I don't know that we put a lot of thought into it. We put her at Gardner, and so we have race and ethnicity, but there's also culture. And I think I'd like to hear more about, as we go down these conversations, about being mindful of where these young teachers start. Some of them do need very particular soil to grow in. As we introduce them to a different culture than they grew up with. If you come from Oakland County, Michigan, and you end up on the south side of Lansing, that's going to be a shock. And people are scared to talk about that sometimes, but that's a reality. And so what happens sometimes is I'll tough it out for a year to get that credential. I think we could eliminate some of that by just being mindful of placement. And I'm sure there's some degree of that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So part of what we do when we meet with both groups of these students that are here is they're not just spending the entire year in one location. When they're interning or when they're in their fourth year, they are popping around, whether it be from special education at a high school building to working in a third grade classroom at Kendon Elementary. They'll pop around and they're kind of exploring where they feel like they fit as well. And then when we're having these meetings, we're having these conversations with the staff. Like, where do you feel comfortable? Where do you feel like you fit? Where do you feel best supported? How can we support you? How can we help the principal support you? And it's a great feedback for us to get their boots on the ground that are kind of helping provide additional feedback to us as well. So yes, we do take that into consideration. We hear their voice and then we also listen to their mentor too. So sometimes they might feel like they're really great fitted, and sometimes the mentor will be like, oh, they need a little help here. But that's what's really great about this relationship.
Madam President, if I may. Point of clarification. So you mentioned that we are training people in the district who may be substitutes. But they have a different 4-year degree, but they have they don't have it necessarily in education, but they have a 4. So are we also offering that to outside recruiters that, okay, you have this 4-year degree, we'd like to bring you in under this provision, we will pay for this? Are we offering that?
We absolutely are. And that's so the 150 that I mentioned earlier, most of that's where that came from at the beginning of the school year. So we had tons of promotions that we went through social media about, do you have a 4-year degree and do you want to teach students and work with our kids? And that's where we had a lot of second career people come in who had a bachelor's degree in chemistry and now have decided, yeah, I'm done being a chemist. I want to go ahead or I'm done being a pharmaceutical, rep or person. I want to teach these things to students. They come in, we help support them. And this is what we're doing through our alternative certification program, through the REAP stipend. We are actually paying for them to get their teacher certification. So we're bringing them on. They want to be here with our students. We're paying for them to get their certification. They are committing to us so that we make sure that they stay with us as well and that they want to be here. But of those 150, that's what we're currently working through right now.
And just a side note, your hashtag that you can probably use as a recruiting tool, no one is different. No one is different because everybody's different. That's your recruiting tool.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I understand that at this point in time, principals have an active part in selecting their staff. So I think that's wonderful, and it's a change because as Mr. Richardson was talking about, does that person fit in that building?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the principals having that ability to be the ones hiring them, not being sent from central office, makes a lot of difference. And I think that will add to the culture of the building as the principals interact with a new employee and the new employee has a better view or understanding of that person who interviewed that person. And it can add, and I think that's one change that I'm really glad that's happening.
Yeah.
And because you cannot, if you don't know the person you hired or that was hired, how can you work with them, So right away you have a little kind of conflict. But this way, I think it's excellent, and I hope that it will continue, I'm sure, under your leadership. but that's, I just want to point out that will contribute to the change of the culture of the buildings, because the principal is the most important person in the building and in that community that they serve.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to point out too,
Well, I got to stay student.
Sorry.
I love you, Mr.
Not
Gomez.
student.
The student is the most important person in the building. But your
Well,
point is taken.
no, yeah, I understand, but we have to make it so that they are happy and safe and can learn. So we're talking about staff in particular. So this
Yep.
is
And
very
we've done, we spent this time this year since Superintendent Schuldner has brought this to us of pushing it out to the principals and directors to hire their own staff, is we'll have group interviews. So we'll have 3 or 4 principals sit in an interview with a staff member. So they all can kind of feel out the staff member, nope, it's probably better for your building, or we connect better, or that sort of thing. So we've also implemented that strategy as well, is because just one single, either whether it was used to be a central office person just doing the interview, I'm not going to know what's best for Miss Mask at Kendon Elementary and what's best for her staff. She's going to know. And so that's where we've started to go.
And the one thing again, me, I'm always going to be, as it may be overtly and too much clarity, that is absolutely the hope, right? I mean, all of the experiences that I've had, and certainly being a professor for almost a decade on leadership in education, when the principal is part of the hiring, they can set the tone, and that's powerful. I will say, though, if it's the middle of March and you have a vacancy and we find somebody, we're probably going to send them to you too. But, because that's just the way it goes. Our two wonderful, LASA members would know. But the idea is, if we get ahead of the curve, which is what we're getting to, right? I mean, we're shaking off a lot of rust here. And so what I think you're seeing is, the best of all possible situations is we start interviewing in March for next year. We start saying, who's the best fit? Do you want to be here? What do we do? And the people that we start with are the folks that are already doing their student teaching, because those schools already know what they are, what they're not. And then what we've been doing, and Sergio has been doing a lot of this work, is all of our fourth year folks and then the teachers that are being the student teacher mentors, actually getting their feedback even a year earlier on, are these people any good or not? Because we don't necessarily have that in a strong way. And what a waste, right? You've just observed this person for 6 months. Give us that report. Maybe we shouldn't even hire this person, or maybe we should do everything we can to bring them up.
And I'd add on to that same context. Maybe they are hireable, but in the right circumstance. You as a principal who have 5 new people, you couldn't take this guy or gal on. Versus somebody who has maybe more leeway to take someone who's a couple quarts low in something where we can, I don't want to say take a chance on hiring someone that's with our students, but be more flexible with hiring.
Absolutely. We actually reviewed even some of that feedback this morning in a meeting with Mr. Keck and myself and some other people about some of the feedback that we had been receiving. We looked at it and we're like, oh yeah, I mean, we can work with that person. They just need a little bit here or a little bit there. And one more thing to add on to Superintendent Shoulders, we actually opened up our job postings for next year in December. And so we've actually already started to get people who, they might want to finish out their year currently what they're doing, but they've already told us as early as December that they want to be with us next year. So that's something we've started to push for a lot earlier than we normally would have.
Excuse me. Yeah, the other thing that is that you started too is knowing who's not going to be here. So knowing how many vacancies you expect in addition to the ones you already have.
Yep.
So that is very important because previously we didn't know until August what vacancies were going to be created because people retired. And that created a lot of problems for everyone.
And sometimes that still happens, right? So that's up to the employee too, to let us know when they want to let us know. But we do work with our leadership to work with their teams. Again, if they have that relationship with their team, a teacher or an assistant or another staff member is going to tell their principal, like, hey, I'm going to be done after this year. And we'll find out earlier. And then that information is shared with us. So then we do have a preemptive knowledge of what we're expecting. And so we are starting to see more of that come in than I would say that we normally would have in the past.
Christina or Ms. Tokar, I have a couple things really quick. So last year we got this personnel by month chart. So it showed us when we were getting new hires, resignations, and retirements year over year. If we could get that updated,
Sure.
That would be great. The other thing that we had last year was reasons for exit reasons by month as well. And that goes to that whole, like, when people give us notice for retirements, resignations, when they're moving to different districts. I'm not so much interested in the resignation reasons right now, just because the market is what it is. But I would be really curious if we conducted a stay interview, and broke out the results by length of service. So, like, are people who have been here newer saying that they're staying for different reasons than people who have been here longer? I'm just immensely curious about that. Same thing, it could be voluntary, just like the exit interviews are. Because along those lines, I'm curious if we've considered doing recruitment bonuses for staff who recruit any members of the group of the district that hire on.
Definitely something that we've considered. We have, we take all and any suggestions at this point. But I really do like the idea of a stay survey instead of just an exit survey. And I think we've mentioned this in the past, but we purchased Qualtrics, which allows us to be able to have these really robust surveys and be able to break it down by the different information that you mentioned. Yep. So thank you for that. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. So speaking about the different recruitment events, we had an event on Monday at Michigan State University. Go green. That's a lot coming out of me just saying because I'm with the next one over there. But we did have a great event. We had 25 candidates show up to that event and over a dozen of them interviewed over the last 2 days. So again, I hope to have more information for you at one of our next board meetings about kind of what were the results out of those 25 candidates that came there. Tonight is a virtual job recruitment fair with the University of Michigan. So we have several staff members participating in that from our recruitment team. And then you'll see we have Saginaw Valley State University, Wayne State, Bowling Green, which is out of state, Grand Valley University, where we hope to recruit quite a bit of special education staff because they have a great special education program there. So we'll be hopefully sending maybe Sergio Keck over there, up there, and some people from the special education department. And then I wanted to point out that we do have our own hiring fair. So that's coming up on the 22nd. And that is going to be at the Dr. Halleck Professional Development Center from 3:30 to 6:30. We also have some of our partners on site there for Dean Transportation and Sodexo. So we would like anybody and everybody who's interested in working for the district to come out. I want to mention that sometimes a lot of people think, oh, it's a school district, you have to be an instructional person to work for a school district. And I want to be here to say, Ben mentioned earlier, I came from banking, right? I don't have a degree in education. We have careers in technology, human resources, finance. The list kind of goes on and on. So if you're a person that's interested in working for a district that's here to be involved in our community, promote our students, graduate our students, we welcome you. It's been a very rewarding career for myself, and I know many others, and we would love to have you come out. Other than that, I'm done and open for more discussion or questions. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm here for it.
Because I didn't want to derail the very beginning.
All right, Mr. Richardson.
One of the first 3 or 4 sentences Mr. Manley said was, we're going to get people paid on time. What have you heard about our district with getting people paid on time or stipends or bonuses or having to track their own checks? What have you heard?
Well, first, we work very diligently to get it right. I'm well aware of a number of concerns. We are working to address those concerns. We instituted a new policy procedure where we do a forensic audit for people and try to reconstruct the facts, and we can attach documents to those forensic audits. And that has been highly successful because often people think they have a concern, and we're happy to hear it. But then we find that, like, once you dig into it, they actually were paid correctly. But we're aware. They've obviously talked to you, and we know that, that's a concern. And if somebody doesn't get paid right, I know this from way back when I was first teaching and a union leader. If you mess with people's money, right, I don't even have to finish the sentence. And we know that I'm fully aware of it. Sometimes people will say, we had a great payroll yesterday, but if there's 2 complaints, that's 2 people, way too many. And we know that.
One of the things that I openly admit, very transparent as the systems and the way that we do things. We still collect paper timesheets in this district. It's 2023 and we collect paper timesheets. So that is something that we are working to correct. There's no reason we shouldn't be digital, which will help get rid of a lot of the human error that causes a lot of this. A lot of payroll issues that we run into are human error, and not intentional human error, but just human error. So,
and one thing, not to defend anything, but because especially school districts have so many checks and balances so that people don't get money they're not supposed to, there are so many redundancies that what is surprising to many is sometimes the issue actually has nothing to do with payroll or HR. It's, let's say, on a school level, or it's on a purchasing level, or it's in a different office level, because it has to go through 6 or 7 different checks and balances, especially when it's not the normal pay, right? So if it's an extra hours, well, did you fill out the paper timesheet? Did your supervisor sign it? Did then they send it to their supervisor? And so I want to do 2 things, as Christina mentioned. One, let's make this all digital, so it's so super easy to know where the fault is. And the second is, if we can be really confident with our systems, we might not necessarily need 7 redundancies. We might only need 5 redundancies, which is still to make sure that our money is well spent and people get paid, but to also make sure that it's a more efficient system.
My President. Thank you. During the presentation, many times, the students and the parents who send their kids to our buildings every morning and find so different cultures there, they came to my mind. And the presentation, give me hope, but at the same time, we be very happy about some numbers, and I know that you are not. But the important point of this, that you did a great presentation.
Thank you.
And to keep the board informed is number one responsibility. And I think that together now, we can move this at the better goals and objectives. But I thank for the presentation, even I'm not very happy about the numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from board members? All right, thank you so much for the presentation,
Thank you
Mr.
very
O'Carr,
much.
Mr. Manley. We appreciate it. Great first presentation, Mr. Manley. It's great. Well, happy to have you back.
I'll be looking for my bonus.
All right. Next on the agenda is adjournment. But before we adjourn, we're going to take a point of privilege to bid farewell to our dear John McGraw. So if you could join me at the podium, we have something for you. John behind the podium. I've accepted that we probably will see you quite a bit. But this is just a thank you for your incredible service to Langston School District, a token of our appreciation and a card from the board. Thank you. Thank you.
That is really what.
All right. Now, may I have a motion for adjournment, please? It's been moved by Ms. Williams, supported by Ms. Lilgy, that the Board of Education adjourn. May I have, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Great. Motion passes 6-0, and at 8:06, we are adjourned.